Fazail Amal, More Trouble Than It's Worth, Part 18, Statistical Analysis 1 of 2, and the Satanic Verses. Let's have a listen.
The Tablighi Jama, that they went around the world and affected thousands, hundreds and thousands of lives. This is all the work of the same inheritance. Okay?
चुनाचे शेखुल हिंद मौलाना महमूद हसन रहमतुल्लाह अलैह के बाद शेखुल हदीस मौलाना अनवर शाह काश्मीरी, हकीमुल उम्मत मौलाना अशरफ अली थानवी, मुजाहिद हुर्रियत मौलाना हुसैन अहमद मदनी, शेखुल इस्लाम मौलाना शबीर अहमद उस्मानी और मुबल्लिग मिल्लत मौलाना मोहम्मद इलियास रहमहुमुल्लाह और उनके तमाम इल्मी, रूहानी, मजहबी और सियासी और दावती और तबलीगी सिलसिलों का असल मंबा देवबंद ही है.
So, for example, the idea of establishing, for example, this was in a historical context, establishing Islam and bringing Islamic laws. Maulana Shabir Usmani rahmatullahi alayhi played a role in that. You have Maulana Ilyas who played a role in what I just talked about, Tablighi Jamaat. You have Anwar Shah Kashmiri rahmatullahi alayhi who became a great muhaddith and the knowledge of Hadith. And Dar Ulum is a great place of knowledge of Hadith, as you know. So, the political movement.
If you have a listen to this lecture by Sheikh Umar Baloch, this lecture and this translation, you'll notice that on a couple of occasions he should really make mention of Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanvi, but even when the person he is translating mentions Thanvi, he fails to translate the name of the scholar, and he purposefully misses him out earlier on when he's talking about Sheikh al-Hadith Mahmud Hassan, Shubir Uthmani and other people. Why is there such a recalcitrance? Why is there such a reluctance to mention Thanvi? Perhaps it's because Thanvi's work, despite the fact that he was strong and a worthy opponent according to Muhammad Qasim Zaman against Ahmed Reza, despite that fact, his works are very problematic. Maybe this is something that the Sheikh Umar Baloch can clarify himself, but it's quite strange that he constantly fails to mention him. Another point is, he says this movement, this TJ, has affected hundreds of thousands of people, and that in a nutshell is the reason why the GR, the Gletkin Rubishov channel, studies this topic, and in the future we'll study many other topics by the will of God. So, here we come to statistics. The bar chart that I provide here, the column, the bar that you should be paying attention to is the green one, and I know the resolution is not great here, but the green one gives the total number of hadiths present in one book, the ahadith of the Fadail of the Quran. So you can see that the da'if and the authentic are almost, well, they are equal, it looks like here, according to the bars. And there are quite a lot of Hasan, which are good hadith, not at the level of Sahih, and also very weak and fabricated, and those that have no basis, and another category known as unknown, so totally unknown. This book, the majority of it, more than 56% of it, is fabricated, weak, has no foundation, or just simply unknown. Then we come to this pie chart, which is the first of two pie charts. This has a better resolution, and we can have a look at it in a different visual representation. So this gives the grades and percentages of the ahadith in groups. So the books that he studied, Fadail Namaz, the virtues of prayer, and Fadail Quran, it says, the above figure shows the ahadith classified as authentic, and this is 59%. Sound and sound due to support by other narrations, which we have put together in one group. They represent the highest percentage of ahadith in Fadail Namaz, more than half at 59%. Whereas the second group, which comprises ahadith classified as weak, very weak, and fabricated, represents 37%, which itself is quite significant, although it is by no means the dominant group. So I get the feeling he's trying to actually put a positive spin on it, but in other chapters, it does reach 56%, and I will cover that in upcoming parts. Now we come to a really interesting topic. After we say enough with the FA and enough with the TJ, we come to the interesting topic of the Satanic verses. This is something that people may have heard of because of the work of an author called Salman Rushdie, but here in this screenshot it gives you the background to it. Of note, I can't read all of this for you because this video would go into 20 minutes, but of note, this is not mentioned in any legal or exegetical sources. It's first mentioned by a historian. First mentioned by a historian called Al-Waqidi, and he was around the period 230-845, and it's recorded by his secretary Muhammad ibn Sa'ad. And basically it says that whilst the Prophet was reciting the Quran, chapter number 53, verses 19 to 20, while he was in the midst of this recitation, the devil came and he tempted him to utter the following lines: "Those are the swans exalted, verily their intercession is to be desired." So these were the verses, these are the actual Satanic verses. The word uses gharanik, which is translated here as swans, but it has been translated as cranes. There's articles called those high-flying cranes. And then what happened after this incident, which is recorded by Waqidi in the year 230, is the Prophet completed the surah and performed a prostration in accordance with the last verse. All those present, the believers and non-believers, also did so. Afterwards, in the evening, Gabriel, meaning the Archangel Gabriel, came to the Prophet Muhammad and drew his attention to the mistake he made by reciting verses which were never revealed to him. At this, the Prophet became very sad and apprehensive of Allah's wrath, and two separate passages in Surah 17 and Surah 22 were revealed to reassure the Prophet, and these Satanic verses were repealed. That's the story, that's how it's generally presented. But how did the scholars of Hadith respond to this quite earth-shattering argument against the Quran? Because if this was actually the case, then this totally destroys the Quranic narrative of it being preserved and no man being able to mimic it, because here it's actually suggesting that the Prophet himself interpolated verses. Here is a very strong argument or response to that, and it's produced by, or it was put forward by two scholars. The first of them, his name is Al-Albani. He wrote a book called Nasb al-Majanik, and another one called Salih al-Shami. He wrote a book called Al-Gharaniq, Qissatun Dakhilatun ala Sirat al-Nabawiyya, the story of the cranes that has encroached upon the prophetic biography. And one of the arguments he gives, or both of them give, is they express the invalidity of this story from the viewpoint of isnad, matan, that's a chain of narration and text, and chronology. And I'll read it here. One of the strong and conclusive arguments of Surah An-Najm is the disputed Gharanik verses, which I've just explained. They were revealed as a whole in the 5th year of prophethood. However, after being revealed during the 5th year of prophethood, before the Hijrah, before the travel to Medina in the month of Ramadan, a small group of Christians had migrated to Abyssinia. The verse was supposedly abrogated. The verse that was supposedly abrogated this Satanic verse was revealed in the 1st year of Hijrah. So there's a span of 8 years in total between the incident and the repealing of the incident. Now, that's the chronology. It's attacked from the point of view of isnad and of matan. The chronology suggests that if this story is true, for approximately 8 years, the Quraysh would have to believe that the Muslims accepted these pagan idols, these cranes or these swans. So if the Quraysh did believe this, that they were believing this for 8 years and reciting it for 8 years, why would they persecute them for their beliefs? So that's a chronological argument. And in addition to Albani and Ash-Shami, Abu al-Ala al-Mawdudi wrote about this, and the link is given. Go there for further details. That, in a nutshell, is the Satanic verses incident and the response. Stay tuned for many more parts.